So today we're going to talk about how to turn your binge into a blessing. Hey there, Eve here from Vitamin Eve Nutrition Counseling, and today we're going to talk about not only how to turn your binge into a blessing, but that the fact that your binge is actually a blessing. Yes, you heard that right. Your binge is actually a blessing. And I know what many of you are thinking out there, that no, Eve does not know what she's talking about. She doesn't know what a binge is, and so first of all, I want you to know I've been there. In fact, when I binge, that was the worst thing that could ever happen. It was the worst thing that could happen, worst part of my day, worst part of my week or whatever. I just hated it so much. It ruined everything and made my life feel dark. So if that's you, you're in the right place. I'm talking to you. And what I want to share with you in this video is actually how to turn that all around. And there are three main tools I'm going to give you. But before I do, I just want to go over what usually happens after we binge, right? We get so mad at ourselves that the first place our mind goes is how to undo it, how to fix the binge or how to compensate. And we may go to great measures to compensate for all that eating that we've done. And I don't want to put ideas in your head because I'm sure you already got a lot of ideas on how to go ahead and do that. But just think about it. After your binge, your mind gets filled with ideas on how to undo that. We think that there's something wrong with us. We feel like there's something that needs to be fixed. And here's the interesting thing about that is when we go on this self-hate tirade about how to fix our binge and how to compensate for all that eating that we've done, it could do one of two things. It could actually make the binge that you're having even worse. I even made a whole video about this years ago on why your overeating causes you to overeat more, right? Because when you overeat, you might get so mad at yourself that it actually causes more overeating in that moment. Also, when we get mad at ourselves and we think we have to fix our eating and we know that we're gonna deprive ourselves or do something really mean to ourselves later, even that causes more overeating. So this idea of compensating for our binge actually backfires, makes things worse, stresses us out even more. It's traumatizing to ourselves. Even though we're doing it to ourselves, it's actually traumatizing. So that is definitely not the solution. And here's another sad thing I want you to know. When we're mad at ourselves for binging, our binging isn't even about food. Most of the time, our binging, our overeating is not even about food. When we use food to cope, we get mad at ourselves for our food and our eating. And then what do? We think we need to micromanage our food. We think we need to micromanage our eating. No. No, our overeating, our binging, our feeling out of control of food is not even about food. What is it really about? It's about the fact that we need to use food to cope. It's about the fact that we don't know how to yet cope with our lives' ups and downs. So this is so important, I'm gonna say it again. Our eating issues are not really about food. In fact, most of the time it's about the fact that we don't know how to cope without using something. And in our case, it's food. Right? So part of healing this issue is learning how to cope with our lives without using food. And that's some of what this video is about here today. So this is why I really want to get in your cells and in your mind and in your heart and your soul that when you binge, it's never random. It's never arbitrary. It's you trying to get your attention. And part of your work, part of your healing is learning to understand what you are trying to tell yourself. Okay, it's you on you action. And the binging is going to continue until you start opening your eyes, your ears, your heart to yourself and start learning what these binges are really about. And that's what this video is about, is to help you through that. So when you do have a binge, instead of saying, oh no, you're saying, okay, oh yes, what is there here for me to learn? What is myself trying to tell myself? And the first area I want you to look at, the first questions I want you to start asking yourself is, how has my eating been? Because if you have been restricting, if you have been skipping meals, if you have been eating non-caloric, non-carbohydrate containing, no flavor foods, that's right, you'll be binging because you are trying to tell yourself that you're hungry. You're hungry for satisfaction. You want to be nourished. The way that you're feeding yourself isn't enough. So the first thing, if you have a binge, if you're overeating, the first thing I want you to reflect on is, how have I been feeding myself? Have I been holding back? Have I been restricting? Have I not been letting myself satisfy myself? Because if you haven't, thank goodness you binged. This is the biggest blessing. It's you finally telling yourself that you need to be fed. You see my ethnic mama coming out right now, okay? Right? You need to feed yourself. Imagine Mama Eve coming and feeding yourself if you're not doing a good job at it. In fact, your self is so powerful that if you don't do a good job of feeding yourself, this higher part of yourself is going to make up for it by doing a binge. So that's the first area that I want you to reflect on. Are you feeding yourself well enough? Are you giving yourself adequate food groups? Are you giving yourself an adequate amount? Okay, so if you have one rice grain, it doesn't count as, Eve, I had carbohydrates. Okay, no. Are you giving yourself adequate amounts of food, the different food groups? Are you eating food that you actually want, or are you forcing yourself to do something restricty or that you think you should be eating, the no calorie thing, right? No. So that's the first area I want you to look at. But if you're like, no, Eve, I'm doing a great job of feeding myself. I love my meals. Oh my goodness. Eve, when you do your eat-alongs and you're loving your food, I'm loving my food the same way, then bing, we pass. Okay, so here's the second thing I want you to look at. If your eating is good, fine, great, good for you. The second area that I want you to reflect on is what other body needs need your attention. Okay, that sounds juicy. Hey, and maybe it is for you, right? Think about the other things you need. How have you been sleeping? Have you been getting adequate rest? This is a huge flag for a lot of people because very rarely do people out there get their 7 to 9 hours. That's like the average 7 to 9 hours that most bodies need. Well, how many hours do you need? Do you even know? Right? So what are some of your body needs that may not be getting attention? You know, like, are you having physical pain somewhere? Could that be it? Some people eat in response to physical pain. I know I certainly have. Are you hot? Are you cold? Is your temperature off? Are your shoes uncomfortable? Yeah, uncomfortable shoes, that could definitely lead to overeating. So you want to ask yourself, which one of my physical needs need to be met? And hey, talk about a blessing. If you're binging because your shoes hurt and that's how your body needs to talk to you, hey, thank goodness you binged. Right? Thank goodness you found out that, you know, those heels are not working for you, okay? Or whatever the thing was, okay? Or that, hey, you need adequate sleep. How incredible, you know, that your body is going to find a way to communicate to you. And you got to remember, the symptom of a binge has your attention, right? If you hate it as much as I did, a fraction of how much I hated it, I know that when you binge, it has your full attention, right? So that's the next place I want you to go is to think of the bodily needs that need your attention. And dude, you could go online and Google bodily needs. You'll be happy to see so many things are on that list. Like if you need a hug, you know, as I mentioned, temperature, sleep, hydration, and on and on and on, okay? But if you say, no, Eve, I'm totally well fed and I'm totally comfortable, I'm getting enough rest and I'm hydrated and all that stuff, the third frontier, the final frontier, is to check in on your emotions, okay? How do you do that? If you knew how to do that, you probably wouldn't be using food. So here is, you might need to like tag this page or save it or, you know, hold on to this so you can remember this, that when your eating is, you know, weird or off, you overeat or you binge, remember it's you trying to get your attention. In some ways to find out, you know, what was that really about, is to ask yourself, well, what's going on today? What happened today? Oh, I just got off the phone with so-and-so. Boom! Now you know that that's one of your triggers. Thank goodness your binge told you that that's one of your triggers. You know, so sometimes it could be as simple as knowing that, oh, after I did X, after I did this thing, maybe it was talking to your ex, I don't know. But after I did X, it turned into Y, a binge, right? Wow, you are learning your triggers. Wonderful. Right? These are triggers that cause you to overeat. In other words, these are triggers that you don't yet know how to feel yet. Amazing. So your body is communicating to you that, hey, this is beyond my capacity to feel. And the way it's communicating that to you is through a binge, right? So part of what I want you to start asking yourself is, hey, what happened today that could have led to a binge? You're going to start to find it's usually not just one thing leading to it, right? So there might be a couple of things that might lead to your overeating. You know, and if you're still not sure, if you're like, I don't know, Eve, my day was perfect. Look at your life. What's going on in your life that might be contributing to your overeating? You know, oftentimes people say, well, Eve, my life is great, but I hate my job. My partner is abusive. I don't have a working relationship with my family members, and I have mold where I live. Okay, you see what I'm saying? There's a lot of factors that could be contributing. And sometimes that's the same person who has all these different areas that they're dealing with that are challenging. And, you know, by the way, it doesn't mean you have to go out and fix all of these things and boom, you know, they're all healed. This is not it. But it's learning how to feel the feelings that come up with having such a full life. Okay, and this is something that nobody teaches us. And guess what? Your binges are going to teach you. From here on out, when you binge, it means school is in session. That it's time for you to learn about you. It means that your soul is trying to talk to you and tell you that, hey, listen to me. I need your attention. Ow, you saw that, right? So your emotion, what is happening in your life that day, what is happening in your life overall. And another cool, sweet way to reflect on this, like before you binge, you could even ask yourself, hey, by eating that food, what am I hoping it's gonna do for me? You know, you could ask yourself that question. If I eat this, what am I hoping to get out of it? And sometimes you'll get your answer even before you binge. Sometimes you may go ahead and binge anyway. Other times you might find a better way to deal with it. But in most cases, especially if you're newer to this journey, or especially if you're in a really challenging place in your journey around healing your relationship with food, you may not realize all of this until after you binge, right? And so if you already binge and you're thinking, Eve said this is a blessing. How on earth could this be a blessing? Doesn't she know how crappy this is? This is when I want you to ask yourself, okay, Eve said my binge is a blessing. Okay, so we already talked about what's going on in your life. And if you're able to figure it out, check, great, good for you. But if you're still drawing a blank, you could ask yourself, hey, when I was reaching into the freezer, or when I went to that, fast food place, how was I trying to make myself feel? Well, easy to answer. I was trying to check out. Or my day was so crappy, I was trying to have moments of pleasure. Or, you know what, I was so pissed off, I didn't want to get into a fight. This is what I felt I needed to do. Boom! You just learned about you. What a blessing. After all, our lives are about learning to evolve our souls, to become more of our potential, right? And so guess what? Your binge is going to point out where you're missing the mark. And that is exactly how you could turn your binge into a blessing. So comment below on how you found this helpful. I want to hear from you. I love you so much. Bye.